So are you able to hear us now?
Mr. Epler gave us the mark.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't see Zach sit here yet. Maybe it was that the yellow around the box.
Yeah, it means they're talking.
Okay.
Typically, so the sound was coming there, it'll rotate.
I see. Oh, so it's for yellow. around
So
the
you
box.
went from the beach to the mountains, huh, Ryan?
Yes, I got tired of the beach. Too much Corona there.
What app is that you're doing that with?
So,
Zoom back.
Oh, it's just background.
Yeah.
If you look on there, you can do backgrounds.
No, I don't use Zoom for all of my conferencing. I only do like Skype.
This is my first one too. I just saw it and thought, now what the heck.
It's been interesting to read some of the teaching.
Here, I'll move so you can see.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, I'm sure there could be some
Well, and kids have gotten creative, not in a positive way.
yes.
you can only imagine.
Yes, you can imagine.
Oh, there's feet in the grass.
Ah.
Look at all these tech gurus knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
I did not want Ryan to be cooler than I am.
Too much time on her hands, that's what.
Well,
Let's sit home.
Christina's awfully sharp about this stuff.
There she is.
We've got Callie. I wonder when we'll see Sarah. And I wonder if we'll see Clara.
Yeah.
Jill, did you get my email about forwarded from Clara Peterson? She was having trouble with her internet today, trying to.
I don't know when you sent it, but if it was afternoon, I would.
Which is perfectly.
Okay, it was after.
Before noon, I looked at my for 5 minutes. And there's that Lashley kid.
Yep.
We have to make sure they can't read anything or else I'll kick us off of YouTube.
Yeah,
Oh, anything copyrighted?
right.
Yeah,
They watch that really close.
I know. There's Sarah.
Hi, it shows that I'm my sister, but
You can temporarily change your name too, just in case you don't want to be Amy all.
okay.
It's counting us down to shut down. Brian.
108 seconds, 5 minutes.
Should we alert you if that happens again? Okay.
Well, yeah, I'll try to stay more awake.
Oh, Mike, come on, use your real face.
Christina, looks like you got really small.
Did I shrink?
Yes.
It's just big grass.
Oh,
Big crap.
Ryan taking a picture of himself.
Oh, this one's going on the Facebook page, virtual school board meeting. It may be catching on from here on out, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. From here on
it
out.
sure could.
You wouldn't be able to pay us mileage anymore though.
That's, there we go, savings. Always thinking outside.
Have you been charging them mileage to come to these meetings, young man?
Not yet.
Oh, Randy's in the tropics. Good job,
Oh,
Mr.
very
Epler.
nice, yes. Oh, geez.
everybody else was somewhere else, I decided I needed to be as well.
We all would like to be, wouldn't we?
So my PDF is not downloading from the new updated version, so I may have to, if we have to reference it.
Sure. Sure. I'll just move this over here.
Perfect.
Since you handed it, doesn't matter anyway. You can see my notes.
Mr. Kramer, would you mute your microphone?
It should be. You're talking about the whole one.
It is.
I love the fact that Mr. Christensen helps me out with these things.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yes, he does.
I just want you all to know if I look like a crazy person, there's a fly in my office here. So, just that may explain any strange things that might happen here shortly.
I'd be pretty worried. He might be after you.
Should we do a check-in with the board members before to make sure they can all interact?
Sure.
So if we can do kind of just make sure, we want to make sure the board members' mics are working okay. Carrie, can we start off with you and just have you check in before we start the meeting just to make sure yours works?
I am here. Hopefully everybody is there and healthy.
Perfect. Mark, can we check yours?
Present.
Excellent. I think Zach just may have stepped away, so I'll check back with him in a moment. Ryan, I think we know yours is working.
Yes.
Okay. Christine, I think yours is working before you were able to share. Let's see. And then Carlos, could we check yours real quick?
I'm here.
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
Should we wait for Zach to come back in?
Man,
He may have gotten the call, so
you may have gotten the
but
call.
we can, we're fine. Go ahead.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance since there are only a few of us here. It kind of detracts from the collegiality of the pledge in my view. So I thought we would just move on to adjustments to our agenda this evening. And I believe we have an amendment.
Yes, we have amendment number 2 under new business, letter M, consider approval of offering teaching contracts for the 2020-2021 school year. And then number 4, we will remove then the discussion of leadership governance sections 2.5, 2.9, and we'll have that discussion. Hopefully, maybe we'll be able to have a face-to-face at the May meeting and be able to introduce that.
Okay, is there a motion to accept these amendments?
So moved.
So moved.
Mark had that motion. Laureen, is there a second?
Second.
And Christine seconded. Any discussion about the amendments? All those in favor of adopting the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Aye. Any abstentions? And that has passed unanimously. All right, next we have reports by the student representatives. So Sarah and Callie, I don't know which one of you would like to start us. Callie, go ahead. Thank you, Mom.
Hi.
Hello, Callie. Were you able to receive the email that I had in relation to kind of sharing with us your experiences over the last couple of weeks, and then kind of maybe if you have any apprehensions towards anything coming up with well, now we're in day 2. We're finishing day 2 of our learning here. So if you could just get us your student perspective, that would be greatly appreciated from the board members' perspective.
Yeah, I think it's going really good so far.
Have you heard of any struggles or impediments that students are facing, Kelly?
The only big thing I've faced and I've heard some others struggling with is like submitting assignments through Canvas. I think teachers are kind of struggling with how to set that up for us to like put downloads into it and not just like a text box. But other than that, I think everyone's enjoying it for the most part.
It's not just working well, they're enjoying it. So that's an interesting point of view.
Yeah.
Well, what do you?
And like,
go ahead.
Like our teachers are giving us like assignments for the week, so it's nice to be able to work at our own pace and get the assignments done throughout the week. And then they set up like specific times to get on with them for Zoom. And if we have any questions about those assignments for the week, they're available to talk during those specific times.
Excellent.
What are you most apprehensive about for if we would have to, obviously right now it's May 3rd is our hopeful return date. What would be your biggest apprehension in relation to if we were having to extend that beyond there? Are there concerns that you have with your learning after that date or even up to that date?
Not that I can really think of. I can't really think of anything.
I love the optimism. That's good.
Kelly, as though you're understanding things as well and as thoroughly as if you were in the classroom face to face with the instructors?
I mean, yeah, so far.
Okay, I know it's only the second day, so.
Yeah.
Hard to.
And I'm used to it with my college classes, so it probably is a lot different for other students, but.
Okay, well, if you hear anything that you think that we should know about, please don't hesitate to send an email.
Okay.
And Sarah, what do you think about what's going on with your learning right now?
Well, I know Mr. Kramer asked about how many teachers have been contacting me and if I've had any contact with teachers. And I've had quite a bit of contact, actually. I'd say at least half of my teachers reached out to me personally to see how I was doing and if I was receiving all the stuff on Canvas correctly or whatnot. A couple of my teachers I did reach out to myself and they were pretty fast to respond. So that was really nice. But yeah, the teachers have been really supportive, which has been really nice.
Go ahead, keep going, Sarah.
I was also going to say, I've also really enjoyed it in the fact that a lot of times during this time of year, it's really nice outside, but the students don't really get to go outside and enjoy it because we're stuck indoors doing work with the teachers. But with online schooling and getting to choose when we're going to be doing our work, it's been nice to go outside during the nicest time of the day. So, yeah.
That's good. How about apprehensions for if we have to do this for the remainder of the school year?
I will say that I've been taking an online math class through the college for this semester. So it has been online this entire semester, and it's definitely been harder for me. I think a lot of students are going to have trouble. Sorry, my dog is going a little crazy. But a lot of students, I think, will have a lot of trouble because I think it takes a lot more discipline as a student individually to say that, oh, I'm going to sit down at this time and I'm going to do my work. I think, especially myself, I can say that I get distracted, like with my phone sitting right next to me and without a teacher to be there and be like, it's probably not a good idea to have your phone out right now. I like check it every like 2 minutes or so, and that can be distracting. But I'm also a little bit apprehensive for graduation and how that will work out. I have a lot of friends who are seniors, and they've been very nervous, I would say, especially with how everything has been turning out, as well as prom, which I talked with Mrs. Patrick a little bit about that over email, and she said we could potentially have it over the summer, which would be nice, I think. But yeah, I know a lot of my senior friends are not very happy with how this is all turning out.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. Anything else to add?
Not that I can think of.
Excellent. And we'll talk actually during my portion at the end of the meeting, we'll talk more about our outlook for graduation and prom. hopefully touch on those a little bit at least. So thank you both.
All right. Next item on our agenda is public forum, and I see no one here wishing to address the board, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. First of all, is there anything to pull from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull item B from the consent agenda, and I'll explain why when we get into discussion.
Sure, B is in Bravo.
Correct.
Anything else to pull? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item B?
So moved.
Mr. Clayton, and is there a second?
Second?
And is that Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion of the consent agenda? All those in favor of approving of the consent agenda with the exception of item B, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? All right, now we'll go on to item B. Trustee Jesperson, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I guess I'll move to approve the bills. Yeah, so I'll move to approve the bills.
Yeah, and a second. Is there a second? Mr. Wagner seconded that. Now, sorry, Mr. Jesperson, I put you on the spot prematurely. Your discussion.
Sure. So if you're playing along at home, page 15 in the packet, you will see reimbursement to my wife for supplies for the spring musical in the amount of just shy of $2,500. I just wanted to pull this from the consent agenda so I could abstain from approving that expenditure. Just on the surface, it looks funny. I'm sure, everybody throughout the process has done their due diligence and this expense is properly being approved. I just wanted to remove myself from that approval process for this particular bill.
Absolutely. Whatsoever with that. Any other discussion on the bills portion of the consent agenda? With all that said, those of you wishing to approve of the monthly bill payment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. And abstentions.
Aye.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So with that underway, we will go on to new business. Wait, did I turn too soon? Okay, we're good. New business. Item A, consider approval of offering teaching contracts, the renewal of initial contract teacher, and the annual employment agreements for the 2021 school year. And the recommendation is to approve offering the contracts. Is there a motion?
So move.
That's Mrs. Bullington. And is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Jesperson, any discussion? All those wishing to approve of offering these contracts, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And abstentions. And that was unanimously passed. Item B, consider approval of offering a teaching contract for the 2021 school year to Martin Shaneman as math and computer ed teacher at Torrington High School. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Yeah, move to approve. I'm sorry. And Mr. Jesperson moved. And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about this item? All those wishing to approve of offering this teaching contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign. Abstentions? And item B passed unanimously. Item C, we are considering the approval of contracting with Web for district health insurance coverage for the upcoming school year. The recommendation is to approve that renewal. Is there a motion?
So moved?
And is that Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And a second?
Second.
Mr. Jesperson, is there discussion? All those wishing to approve of contracting with Wyoming Educators Benefit Trust for the upcoming school year, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? And that passed unanimously. Item D, as in Delta, we are considering the approval of an application to the Wyoming Department of Education for a proposed alternative high school, and the recommendation is to approve this application. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
And is there a second?
Second.
I'll let that go to Mr. Jesperson. Is there any discussion on this item?
Just, this is Zach, related to this item, in the meeting that I had with Mr. Kramer prior to the board meeting, am really encouraged that the district is pursuing this. I think there's a number of individuals in our district that are, could benefit, as well as, really, I guess, kudos to Mr. Christensen for getting this up and moving, the idea moving forward.
And I don't know if Mr. Kramer shared with you in your individual meeting, the Wyoming Department of Ed put a moratorium on the establishment of alternative high schools for several years. And this had been something that THS was wanting to institute, some time ago, and mercifully that moratorium has been lifted, so we can proceed with something that we think is very good for our students.
Yeah, I'd also like to say I'm very sad that this didn't go ahead sooner. I thought it would be, if it would have been in place, it would have been nice to do this program and then get done with school maybe a year or so early, and then get to go study abroad or go into the workforce or go to college a little bit earlier. So I was very sad that I didn't get a chance to do it, but I'm excited for the students who are upcoming who will get to do this.
And Sarah, you make an interesting point, because typically we think of an alternative high school as benefiting students who are struggling, but at the same time, this format can be, really advantageous for students who want to accelerate their high school experience.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your viewpoint. Any other discussion? All right, all of you wishing to approve of this application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that has been approved unanimously. Item E, consider approval of rejecting all bids for proposed construction of the LFL High School secured vestibule. And the recommendation is to reject all bids. And so when we vote in favor, if you vote in favor of this item, you are voting in favor of rejecting the bids, just to clarify. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Wagner moved, and a second?
Second.
All right, I'll give that to Mr. Miller this time. Any discussion? And Mrs. Cates, would you like to provide some explanation about this?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. We did have two parties bid on the project. They both seemed to think they could complete the project in the time frame requested, but they were almost double the construction estimate. So consequently, I'm recommending the rejection of bids. I did have a conversation with the engineer and the architect. We do still own the drawings, and my recommendation is that we refine the project. There are a few items that came out of it that did cause some variances to the construction estimate. Refine the project, look at rebidding it in November of next year for summer of 2021 work.
Any discussion or questions for Mrs. Cates? All right, those who wish to approve of rejecting these bids, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? So we have approved the rejection of these bids unanimously. Item F, consider approval of contracting with EP Construction for district concrete repair work, and the recommendation is to approve of this contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All those wishing to approve of contracting with EP Construction, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that item passed unanimously. We're on to item G as in golf. Consider approval of contracting with Waddle and Dog contractors for summer 2019 hail damage repairs at Lingle for Alarming High School. And the recommendation is to approve this contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Clayton, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. Any discussion? All those who wish to approve of this contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And abstentions. Item F is approved unanimously. Item G, excuse me. Item H, consider approval of contracting with Morehouse Incorporated for summer 2019 hail damage repairs at LFL Elementary School and the concession building. And the recommendation is to approve this contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Any conversation? All those wishing to approve of this contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And item H has passed unanimously. Item I, consider approval of contracting with AAA Stucco for summer 2019 hail damage repairs at LFL Middle School. The recommendation is to approve contracting with AAA. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any discussion? All those wishing to approve of this contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that item was approved unanimously. Item J, discuss and consider proposals for Torrington High School parking lot design services and construction administration. So I'd like a motion to discuss these proposals. And thank you, Mr. Wagner. And a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton. All right. Mr. Kramer, do you have
So
to contribute.
this, on this situation, it's kind of unique as we had two bids. And actually, Marcy, I may just kind of jump in if you want to kind of start off, and I may jump in on some points that you kind of had, but your familiarity with the two different bids and kind of an explanation on the variance and what the reason is and the thought process behind there.
Sure. We have two local engineers that price the work, both Benchmark and Baker and Associates. Benchmark priced it as they typically would. All I requested was a proposal for design services. With that, they provided their standard that construction administration would be 4 to 6% of the construction contract price. Benchmark, when they were asked to price their design services, they priced that as well as the whole package, including construction and administration. And Benchmark proceeded to also provide a phone call, excuse me, not Benchmark, Baker and Associates provided a phone call stating that they were pretty sure in comparing to other local engineers, surveyors, that they would be higher because they include the geotechnical testing work that others would have to contract out. So what I tried to do is break out the design services from Baker and Associates and compare that to Benchmark, which Benchmark is $12,850. Baker and Associates is $24,300. I then broke out Baker and Associates construction administration, which is $37,000. And I took an engineer's estimate average of $688,000 and took 5% of that to get $34,400 for Benchmark. That's comparing Baker and Associates of 37, Benchmark for 34,400. All I'm asking for is if we have a desire to get someone going with the design. I think it's important that we also look at the secondary piece, because you probably want the same person to do your construction administration as would do your design. Not totally necessary, but for the two to work together, it makes sense. So I don't know if there's any questions or any conversation in regards to the difference between the way Benchmark and Baker and Associates priced their proposals.
My question would be one of the technical aspect of what was the included in the RFP? What was the ask?
The ask was verbal, and they were asked to provide a proposal for design services to replace the big or the south parking lot at Torrington High School.
It just sounds to me a bit like the one wants additional work in the future, and so they went ahead and bidded that out versus just completing the request. But I'm indifferent.
No, you're disinterested.
Yeah.
In my time here, we've had Benchmark do similar civil work, similar concrete parking lot work. We've had Baker and Associates do architectural work, but we have not had them do any civil work. I know they do that, and they reference other like projects in their proposal.
Challenging situation we have in this is if you look at the total services, or actually even just from the design services portion, there is a drastic difference in the proposal or the bid, and in the total amount there is a significant difference. We are in a situation where we're well ahead of where we need to be in regards to this. So it's not imperative to make a decision tonight if that would please the board on having that option. The challenge that we do have is that these bids did go public, so it would not be fair to either group to ask for them to rebid, as there is the expectation of the numbers out there. But we do have some at least option on time is in our favor on this situation in regards to not being up against a hard deadline to make this decision if that's not something that the trustees would be comfortable with at this time.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs.
the motion on the floor is to consider.
Exactly.
And so, since that's a motion, I mean, we need to, if we want to go forward, I mean, we have considered, but we've just discussed it, but the way the motion stands, there's not really any clear action to be taken. I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, yeah. And as I asked for a motion, I was apprehensive about asking for a motion because this is an unusual situation. So I apologize for that vagarity. Is it the sense of the board that you would like to wait until our next regularly scheduled meeting to approve contracting with one of these firms?
What are we going to learn in a month that might help us make a decision more so than what we already have in front of us?
I'm not sure. Mrs. Cates, can you address that?
I have no further information unless there's items that you as trustees could use to better make a decision. Mr. Kramer is correct. This is scheduled as summer 2021 work. So getting the design started is just going to allow it to bid sooner and hopefully achieve better pricing.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Kramer, is this major maintenance money that?
This would be a major maintenance, yes.
What is the recommendation of either you, Ms. Cates, or Mr. Kramer regarding this? If you were to, it says to discuss, however, what would be the recommendation if we were to make a vote, to take a vote on this? What is the administration's recommendation?
Mine would be to go with a lower bid in regards to this, because I don't know necessarily, and it probably deals with my lack of familiarity in regards to what the cost would be for a geotech survey and compaction survey costs. If I had more familiarity on what those specific costs would be and the assurance that that would be in turn added on to construction costs, that would allow me to maybe consider Baker and Associates in this situation. But with the unknown on that, I feel more comfortable with my known costs in regards to Benchmark at this time. And being that my recent work with Benchmark, it has not drawn any questions in regards to their ability to perform the duties of design services and construction administration. Marcy, if you'd like to add anything, feel free.
My recommendation would mirror Mr. Kramer's from the standpoint of two issues. First off, Benchmark oversaw the most recent parking lot work at Southeast. It went very well. We had no issues, and they've worked very well with the district in ensuring that we do have multiple bids and timely bids.
Mrs. Miller, would it be appropriate at this time to put forward a motion to recommend the hiring or the approval of a contract?
I don't recall who made the original motion, but and that we withdraw that original motion.
Mr. Wagner made the original motion.
And make it to reflect what we'd like to take action on at this point.
To withdraw it or amend it?
Withdraw, either way, withdraw it and make a new one or amend the old, whatever. Either way.
Motion.
All right, Mr. Wagner would like to withdraw his motion.
I don't know who seconded.
Mr. Clayton seconded this.
Yeah.
And for any who are unfamiliar with our typical board procedure, Mrs. Miller is our parliamentary expert. So I often look to her for guidance.
That's a big title. Sometimes we don't do it quite right, but we try.
Do our best, but you keep up very well. All right, is there a motion to be put forward at this time following our conversation?
Madam Chairman, I move to approve benchmark for the reconstruction of the parking lot.
All right, Mr. Wagner has moved to approve contracting with Benchmark Services for the design of the Torrington High School parking lot and contract administration or construction administration. Is that accurate? Is there a second?
Madam Chair, was that construction administration as well, or is this just the design phase of it?
Well, the item in our agenda says construction administration.
Marcy, would you want to guide us on that as to relation to what you'd like to have the board make that motion on?
Yeah, at this time, I'm only recommending that we proceed with design.
Okay.
Through the design process, we will get their estimate, and based upon that estimate, we can then bring forward their proposal for construction administration.
Okay, so we'll delete the last three words on our agenda item, and the motion is to approve the hiring of Benchmark Services for Torrington High School parking lot design. Does that reflect your thought? Okay, and do we still need a motion? I mean, a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, thank you. Again. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor of approving the proposal to contract with Benchmark Services for this project, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. And any abstentions?
I will abstain. This is Zach.
Okay. So that has moved forward on a vote of 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Item K, consider the approval of contracting with Landscaping Plus for Southeast Schools Xeriscaping project. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I can share on this one real quick. This one is a little unique. We did struggle a little bit to get two bidders to bid on the work. We did get 2 bidders, and our local is slightly higher. Our local bidder, Landscaping Plus, has a better feel for the soil conditions and just the overall construction conditions associated with the area. Consequently, in looking at it, I felt like they provide us a better option and a long-term option, that in sharing that with Southeast School and Mr. Kramer, my recommendation is to approve the local Landscaping Plus for the $77,500.
And I understand that Landscaping Plus is willing or predisposed to help amend the soil and make adjustments so that the landscaping survives in the brutal environment of Southeast schools.
What they are recommending is actually to have raised beds, decorative raised beds, So in those raised beds, the soil would be reconditioned, and we would have a much better chance of growth.
Exactly. So even though it's a little more costly on this end of it, the chance of success is higher.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Mr. Epler, do you have any insights that you'd like to share?
We have seen the plan presented by, a rough drawing presented by Landscaping Plus, and he's sure willing to work with us to provide the vision that we have for that area, and also is doing the above ground planting that will help ensure the success of the plants that we choose for that area.
All right, good to hear. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving with Landscaping Plus, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Item K has been approved unanimously. Item L, consider the approval of contracting with Wyobraska Enterprises for 2020 district weed control, sterilant, and fertilizer application. And the recommendation is to approve this contract. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Mr. Wagner. Is there any discussion? All those wishing to approve the contract, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Item L is unanimously approved, and we'll go on to item M. In our addendum, consider the approval of offering teaching contracts for the 2021 school year. The recommendation is to approve offering these contracts. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Jesperson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I'll give that to Mrs. Miller. Any discussion? All those wishing to approve the offering of teaching contracts, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? And that is unanimously approved. All right, and item 4 is being moved forward to our May meeting. So please mark that on your leadership governance document. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I have a lot of scribbling here, and so I skipped it. We have topics for discussion from the board. Is there anything that you would like to bring up this evening?
I just have a couple of items, really just recognition for a few individuals. So Mr. Christensen's communication through email regarding the transition to online format. Again, this is just as a parent in the district, but I really appreciate that communication that's being sent to students as well, and then copied to us so that we are aware. I do really appreciate that. And then all the staff that have been involved in making that transition effective. Mr. Glass has been impactful for one of my children, Mrs. Clayton, when she ran out the computer. Mask on, but you could tell there was a smile under the face as it was happening. So I know it's a difficult time. We experience that in healthcare as well, but it's the effort that the district teachers, administrators have gone to, the parades, all of those things, videos posted online, I think is just really commendable from all of the teachers and administrators in the district. So just a big thank you from me.
And I piggyback on your remarks, Mr. Miller, and commend the folks involved in our school lunch and breakfast distributions. That has been crucial to so many of our stakeholders in the district, and they have worked very hard to make that successful. And I'd really like to compliment them on that effort.
And I'd like to echo those comments too, and really the entire administration team for essentially putting together an alternative learning plan in 2 weeks. And in my discussion with Mr. Kramer before the board meeting, in my world, we call it disaster recovery plan or business continuity plan. It's got a lot of names, part of that being pandemic plans. Banks are required by federal law to have them tested annually. Before Glacier came along, that was my job for First State Bank, was putting together a disaster recovery plan and testing it. And I hated it. It was like my least favorite thing that I did. It was a pain in my butt, and it was something that I worked on for years, and it took me years to have something that was acceptable to the regulators. We asked, not us, but the Department of Education essentially asked all the school districts to do that in 2 weeks, come up with essentially a continuity plan so we can continue to do what we're supposed to do. So from my experience, knowing how difficult that is and how unpleasant it can be, I just want to commend the administration team for putting together what I think is a good plan to go forward. So thanks, guys.
I would just like to piggyback that too. I think what the administration did as quickly as they did was just astounding. The staff, all the other staff have just jumped in and done whatever has been needed, whether it's making copies, whether it's running papers to families. They just, we have a remarkable team in this district. We should be very proud.
We have a lot of love and support for students. And that's been exemplified by the actions of everyone in the last 2 and 3 weeks. So congratulations and our compliments. Any other topics that you'd like to bring forward?
I have just a kind of a topic in another direction.
Sure.
I see on the superintendent's report, we list district graduation Sunday, May 24th. And I know that a few of us have talked about this different ways, but I was wondering where we're at on that, if we think we're going to stick with that, are we going to pick another one? Are we going to pick another date and keep it on the back burner so families can be forewarned that this may be a secondary date? I mean, what are we as we're thinking we should try to do with graduation and possibly prom dates?
So to that point, just before I'm sure Mr. Kramer, you respond, I have had community members ask me that frequently and state that they really liked what the Scottsbluff School and Gearing School Districts did regarding this is our graduation date. If that is pushed back, this is the secondary. And if that doesn't work, this is the tertiary date. And if that doesn't work, all bets are off type of method. And so that may be something to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that actually in discussions with families, trustees, teachers, administrators, I think that is the best avenue to proceed with, is to look at, hopefully plan for May 24th continuing, then look at a June date, July date, and an August date, and set those. And as we get closer to those dates, I think your minimum time frame is probably, I think what we've kind of been able to look at and forecast is about 4 weeks out. So making that decision at the end of April for the May date, and then in turn just kind of continuing that same process down to, if needed, that last August date would make the most sense to me, because I think it is very, very important to have a ceremony wherever that lies. And until we would reach an August date of where students would then be going off to college or other areas in the workforce or armed services or those type of things, then I think we would have to look at some of those alternatives as a virtual graduation, but I would not be looking at those until we would be past the August opportunity for graduation. So what I will do with the, I'll be looking at the calendar for some possible dates to avoid as many conflicts as we possibly can, but looking in June, July, and August for some alternative dates, and then be announcing those in turn with what we would have available for families.
Does that sound like an acceptable way forward?
It sure does to me.
All right.
And then also to answer one of Sarah's questions too, the hopeful possibility too of looking at prom dates as a possibility. I think one that has even been thrown out administratively is to have that coincide with a graduation weekend or some type of celebration, to have some type of event to coincide with that. So that would be the alternative, entering those alternative dates, the possibility of entering that on the calendar also.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just one more thing. I think we've done this in the past, but we didn't do it today, but I just wanted to just recognize Mr. and Mrs. Harms and Mr. Zigwe that are leaving the district. Those folks have really made an impact on our district and they'll be sorely missed. So I just want them to know that they have my appreciation, and I'm sure they have many others as well.
Absolutely. I think every board member is united in your sentiments, Mr. Clayton. Thank you for remembering to bring that up. F, our future meetings. We have some discussions regarding salary relations. And I've been in touch with GCEA leaders and they haven't responded back to me about how they want to proceed with this. So we're kind of just sitting here waiting to find out.
I've been in contact also with our facilitator, trying to coordinate some ideas there. So we'll continue that work. I think our best bet would be to schedule a board budget work session and then move from there. But that would be the priority, is to set that, and then that would hopefully then in turn have a relation to where we could go with salary relations and setting that. So I think what I'd like to look at is possible dates for that budget board work. Marcy, knowing that has significant workload in relation to what comes out of your office, do you have suggestions in which that would be able to occur?
Let's look here real quick. It's worked well if we look at kind of the very end of April, like we've done Tuesdays or Thursdays, but that would be like the 28th or the 30th. I don't know if either one of those dates are open, but then that would allow us to roll into like if we did the weekend, like May 2nd. I'm looking here, our board meeting is on the 12th of May. So if we did look at that last week of April, that still gives us, a week to 10 days before needing to have a recommendation for the board meeting on the 12th.
Now, Marcy, are you addressing the entire salary relations committee meeting or just a board budget?
Just the board budget.
Just the board. Go ahead.
I'm referring to a work session with the board that would be in preparation for whatever salary relations would look like.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Sir,
did we get a different facilitator?
yeah, we have a different facilitator this year. Is there anyone with any recommendations or conflicts as far as dates in late April?
My disclaimer right now is depending on what volume looks like in healthcare.
Yeah.
So for any availability.
Gotcha. And this is Zach, Mr. Saucedo, and I are the board representatives to the Salary Relations Committee, but we'd certainly, you know, welcome everybody's participation in conversations about where we want to go. And a work session of the entire board would help facilitate that. So except for Mr. Miller.
28th was the 28th is
All right.
is that
Would April 28th be acceptable to everyone?
What time? Evening?
Yeah, probably evening. 6, 7, what you put?
6 would probably, if everybody can make it by 6.
Yeah, 6 p.m. doable for everyone on the 28th?
Yes.
No, I know. Okay. And Mr. Wagner and Mr. McClung might be very busy at that time, but we hope they can just dust off their pants and come in for a few. Maybe we'll feed you or something. All right, so put that on your calendar, April 20th.
Just 2 seconds. We will not be able to get together per the public order at that date. So it'll have to be maintained the same way.
Social distancing.
Correct.
So we won't be getting together and having pizza.
That's true. That's true.
We can share addresses and we can have it delivered there and
Oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for reminding me of our new reality. Sorry about that. All right, the 28th at 6. And I can't, you know, as I've squawked constantly, because where I lived, I do not have internet capability to participate in Zoom. So I would either appear in person or do it telephonically. So that's my situation. And the next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, May 12th at 7. And it'll include the salary and benefit recommendations, provided that we're able to go through the process that we hope to go through. And I will turn things over to Mr. Kramer.
All right. First one actually deals with a previous agenda item, and actually just some thoughts, or we didn't have a chance. Mr. Christensen had an opportunity to communicate with me. Currently, the name of the school that was in the application was just set up as a placeholder, but wondering if there would be any suggestions, or if you're fine. Currently, it's listed as he wrote that as Platte River School, but that does not have to be the case. But if you have other suggestions, I would listen to those now, and we can discuss that, or we can stay with Platte River School.
We could have a contest and let the kids know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That'd be another option. Okay. I'll talk with Mr. Christensen and discuss the option there and kind of proceed and either have the placeholder that we already have, or like Trustee Wagner just referenced, was the possibility of students being able to name that school.
As long as they don't name it Bodie McBoat Pace, it'd be okay.
Yes, appropriately named school, that would be correct. So then what I'll do is actually go back to my items that I had listed. When we first started off this process, looking at school closures and implementation of online learning, we as a district had set priorities in regards to what we felt our students needed. And I want to thank all the administration, teachers, and all the employees, custodial staff, have been in transportation, food service, have been phenomenal. Our number one priority was food, actually, and making sure our students were fed when we did not have school. And we set that as a priority the week before we knew we were coming back into this reality. And our food service director, Patty Esser, stepped up to the plate along with her employees in the food service department. And were able to provide lunches and breakfast the very first day we were expected to be back into school. We really found out that Friday before, the Wednesday after, we were feeding kids and feeding 250 meals. And now, Marcy, as you and I spoke today, I think we're over 400 meals in the district, which is roughly about 25% of our student population eating on a daily basis from our different remote locations, which is phenomenal. So I can't express my appreciation enough for the work they did to provide that at such a quick turnaround and the way they're doing it. And an extension even beyond this weekend of trying to go for, as we have a longer holiday weekend, to providing larger meals, and appreciation for not only the food service individuals, but now that we have food service and we have hourly employees who are now working in their regular capacity, stepping up to the plate and saying, you know what, I'm usually an aide within the classroom, but now I'm going to actually help with serving kids lunch, and having no hesitation whatsoever from a number of our employees saying, absolutely, whatever way I can help, we're going to do that. And that's what it's been about here in Goshen County, is tell me what we can do to help kids and we're going to do it. And that was number one. Number two really has come down to mental health of our students, our staff, and our community, and really trying to drive that home. We set out, as we knew we were going to be with this remote learning plan, is our priority first was communication to parents, checking in on them, making sure that they were okay and they had their needs met, not necessarily specifically all about academic needs, but emotional needs from the standpoint of how can we help the most. And our teachers have really taken a hold of that, where there was daunting tasks to be undertaken, as you mentioned, in relation to the work they did in 2 weeks. They turned a program that many within their entire careers, spanning almost 40 years, where they had face-to-face conversations, to where now we have teachers having to learn remotely in a matter of 10 days. And we expect it to be done at a high level. I don't know if you could enter any job at any level and change the entire expectation of what you're supposed to be doing and expect them to do it well and at a high level in such a short amount of time. And our teachers have succeeded in doing that. And what really actually has been the challenge for us administrators is holding our teachers back to actually really striving to achieve at significantly high levels and putting those things out for kids. And one of the sayings that I've seen on social media, and it really holds true, is Maslow before Bloom's. And knowing that piece of mental health and checking in on families, because I know as a parent right now, and a number of master's degrees in my household from the parents' perspective, and the absolute challenge to have 3 children undertake home learning right now, and to do it well, and to do it without, I hate to say, a little bit of yelling and screaming on whether it be the kids or the parents' standpoint, for the amount of things that are just changing, and yet the unknown. And I can't applaud our teachers enough for doing a great job. And every teacher that I've heard from the parent perspective asking, how are things going? Not, where is your work? Why haven't you turned this in? That's not priority right now. We will get to those things. And even if we don't get to that new learning, all of our students are going to be okay, because we will catch them up. We're going to take them from wherever they come in, whenever we get back to normal, and we're going to take them from that point, and we're going to extend their learning and reach to the highest levels possible. But right now, it's about their mental health and the families that we have in our communities to support them in the way that we can, because we're not only just an educational institution, we are a community environment, and it goes back to supporting our employees. And I appreciate our board members and the support they've had for every one of our employees to maintain their salaries and maintaining our communities, because if we were to take that away, our responsibilities, not only as administrators, but as trustees of the county, is that we're supporting our employees to make sure they're not having to make drastic decisions if they were unemployed at this time to move outside of our county. And that support that you're providing right now is definitely felt and definitely appreciated by our staff. So I appreciate that. And every one of my conversations every trustee has been about what can we do for our community. And that really helps us as administrators reinforcing that. And so then it comes to the learning, and that's where we're at on day 2 of online learning. And every single day I expect that we're going to get better at this. We're not perfect at what we're putting out, but we're perfect in checking on kids right now, and that's priority. And I think that needs to be our perfection first, and we'll work on those things that'll come secondary. But again, I appreciate the students, the parents, and their understanding, because as I hear a lot of thanks and appreciation for the communication, but I know we can do better, and I know we can strive higher to even get that better than where we're at. And that kind of turns us over to the alternative plan that we submitted. And I'm going to kind of take over this screen and put that plan up here, if I can. No, that's not going to do it. I'll try it again. This is where I'm impressed with the number of teachers that can handle this without any problems. Okay, so what I brought on your screen now is our GCSD remote learning plan. This was a very unique undertaking, as on last Monday, just over a week ago, we were informed by the Department of Education that there would be the expectation that every district in the state would develop a learning plan going forward after April 6th to be able to receive funding and to be able to maintain what we've been able to do from the learning standpoint and attendance. So this outlines the various functions from attendance and how we do that at the district level, to the learning expectations, outlining in time, and also where we would step in to provide that assistance for families in regards to that attendance. As we've shared in different staff meetings, whether there be at the district level or individual building level, communication is key, and attendance isn't necessarily a result of turning in a product or a worksheet, but necessarily a communication, whether it be through email, phone conversation. If a teacher is able to communicate with a student or parent during a week, that is considered attendance. There is not a necessity that they turn in a certain amount of workload at this time. We wanted to make it very understanding and unique to each family, that there will be some families or students that will be able to complete all their work for that week, as Sarah referenced, in day 1 on Monday. They'll be done for the week. There will be others that will absolutely take every minute of that week to complete work. And there will be a number of students that will not even have the time due to other family situations or expectations of work or expectations of childcare or other family members, that they might have only 15 minutes to spend. But we're able to then, with our plan, count those students in attendance and use that diversity of the way that we were trying to reach kids to still count them in attendance and still provide that support. The other pieces that we kind of go down are special education, which creates a whole other dynamic with our ELL students and those students who absolutely need additional supports, and how that looks for each individual family. We've talked about differentiation for years within the educational realm, and this has required us to get 100% proficient at it in a very short amount of time. And I think what will really help is I think that this learning experience will change education for the better in many ways of reaching kids and being able to really talk about learning as the capacity for our education, as opposed to the motivational factor of grades and things that we know that some are highly motivated, but a lot of our large percentage of our students, we need to teach them how to be motivated by the learning component and help them that it's about the learning and when that takes place. And that might not take place at the same exact moment as your peers, but it may take place down the road. And where we get to that, this allows for a little bit of more freedom and innovation in looking at that. Other pieces, and I have to commend one of Trustee Sauceda, who called me and really talked about the counseling aspect of our students and the need for the mental health, and gave us a suggestion of having the availability of our counselors via phones while we're at this. And so we started that immediately through some of those discussions and getting cell phones to each one of our counselors and posting those numbers on our website as soon as they receive those school issued phones. So students who need to contact a counselor can just go to the website or anywhere within that plan and in their email, and they can contact those counselors for their mental health. If it's dealing with academics or even family situations that they're needing help on, or if it's just this whole situation in general, that we can assist and put them in contact with the right people. And our counselors are very paramount in this whole undertaking and on the front lines of this. Also, the importance of our availability of teachers in their office hours and outlining the best practices that we have. One of the things that we're utilizing the most, 6 through 12, is our platform of Canvas and ways that students interact with their teachers, so they have one point to go to places to get all of their work, not necessarily having multiple points in which they're trying to have and receive information and outlining that. We will probably make a number of changes through this remote learning plan as we progress through this closure, or building closure, I should say. I have to catch myself because school's definitely not closed. Sometimes I have to even look at the way I reference it in emails in school closure, because it's our building closure. Because when we know from trustees down to our custodial staff to our transportation, in no way is our district closed in any fashion. We're probably actually going above and beyond with the services that we ever provided within our four walls that have exceeded the expectations. But I think we have a very good plan. It was approved by the state on the Wednesday after the request, and we've really been able to progress and refine, and I think we'll continue to refine that plan as we progress through this school year and however long this closure lasts. Then I'll actually also share within another piece is our other plan, or our changes, which we've had for students, or actually, excuse me, staff for next year. And this is the outline for this document. Try to kind of center it a little bit better. I'm going to change it real quick here. Because we have more of these, I'll get more proficient at this, I think is how it works. So.
But even if you nail it one time, the next time something
always happens.
It's always an adventure.
All right, so you can see that we had the highlighted yellow means that they are open or reposting for different positions, and then how those changes have occurred as we've had the number of retirements or resignations, and then the transfers that coincided with that. And so if there would be any questions to that, we could certainly, I can entertain any of those questions as we've had those transfers. Okay. Then our last item, we kind of discussed within the discussion of board members, was the district graduation scheduled for May 24th. My plan would be to stay with those same times, but to look at some alternative dates, as I mentioned before, in June, July, and August. I think, again, as through my conversations, it is paramount to have a ceremony to that and make sure our students are provided that opportunity as seniors. As I'm very, as Sarah referenced, our students feel very disappointed as seniors, and they're missing out on their senior spring. And I can't imagine, I can't even fathom as a parent. And I think the most important thing that we could do as a district is still provide that celebration and opportunity for commencement and walk across the stage, no matter when that time might be, that we provide that for our students. And I feel for them. I wish we had the opportunity. One thing that did come out today was the Wyoming High School Athletic Association did state that all spring sports were canceled. We were holding out hope that there would be the possibility of maybe a culminating event, but unfortunately that was unable to happen. So we will not have a spring high school sports season, and those students who are seniors, I really hope that we can have opportunities and think about ways to honor them in that way for their participation, and think of some innovative ways to do that. And I'm sure we will. But I look forward to the opportunity for everybody to be involved in commencement, as opposed, hopefully that takes place in May, but if it doesn't, it will take place in June, July, or August. Those are all the items I had to speak about this evening.
Wonderful. Is there anything else to come before the board?
I had a quick question. I forgot to mention this in my my report, but I was wondering if the last day of school is going to remain the same, or is that going to move? Are we going to be making up any of that time that we lost, or what is going on there?
Excellent question, Sarah. The state does not require us to make up any days before. They gave us a reprieve on the days from March 16th to April 3rd, I believe it was. So that closure was held harmless. We did not have to make up any days. These current days that we are not in session, because of our remote learning plan, we are counting those as school days. So really we are on day 2, we've completed day 2 of our remote learning plan, and those count the same exact way that as if we were in session. We do still have the snow day that was in November that we have to make up. So if you're looking at the traditional calendar that was given out at the beginning of the year, it is 1 day extended beyond that. But that is where we will be ending the school year in our current plan.
Does that clarify everything for you?
Yeah, I also do wonder, is there like a certain point that we are not in like in-person school that they will extend that and say that we have to make that up, or does that make sense?
No, I understand your question. That's a great question. What I foresee is if there is anything, it will be just an extension of our remote learning plan. I'm hopeful and optimistic that right now we would be looking at May 4th for our return to regular schooling. If that does not happen and they have to extend that, we would just be extending the operation of our remote learning plan in that every school day would be remotely like we've done the last 2 days and count as school days.
You good? Okay, thank you for bringing those thoughts forward, Sarah. I'm sure that you are not alone in wondering that. And for those of you who are attending who do not typically attend, I'd extend an apology for some of my bumbling and fumbling tonight, because this is a different format and it did bump me off my game to an extent. So if you come and we're doing our regular board meeting in person, I hope that you'll see me behave more confidently. So if there's nothing else for us, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for participating.
Mute us for